like it. Uh, so, thank you for the scripture reading. That has become my favorite text, actually. I don't know if it's a good text in the context of church, right? Because we tend to think that the heart of a Christian is good. Anyway, today we are going to talk about dinner is served. Now, Sophie, do you have siblings? Yeah? And what are their names? Zach and Mike? Blake. Okay, all right. Anna, you have siblings? Yeah? All right. Name? Noel? Okay. Inami? You have siblings? Okay. Name? Ivan. Okay. Any kids there who have siblings? Okay. A lot, right? A lot of us here have siblings. Now, the story that I'm going to talk about is someone who had siblings, a lot of them. Now, there are others that may not have siblings, okay? For example, our daughter doesn't have a sibling, and some of our friends where we used to attend church, every time we meet with them and they see her, they always laugh, and they're like, oh, she's so grown. She used to pray for a sibling. And I guess the prayer was not answered. But when we said, we were too old for that, she said, oh, Abraham was 100 years old. Well. We never knew she was paying attention to the stories. But this story comes from Genesis chapter 37. And this is the story about Joseph. So Joseph had 11 siblings. And we know that Jacob, his father, had married 2 wives who were sisters. Now, for the adults in the room, I would like you to read Leviticus 18, verse 18. Now, just read it there. We are not going to read it aloud. But Leviticus 18, verse 18, basically what it says, the adults can read it. It says that you should never marry your wife's sister when they are alive. Okay? I don't know if you ever knew that this existed. But our God is so, I don't know, I can't say knowledgeable, but But he's wise, right? Beyond what we can comprehend. And so he sets this up. Jacob goes to get married, and he wanted to marry Rachel, who was the younger sister. But because of tradition, his future father-in-law tricked him and gave him Leah, the older sister. So you can see here, to those who have read Leviticus 18, verse 18, you can see what's going to happen here. Because God was forbidding this kind of thing from happening. And this thing, even though they are siblings, they are sisters, there was bound to be hatred. Not only hatred between the sisters, but hatred that was also going to spill to the kids. And so Jacob has kids with Leah, but for some time, Rachel could not have kids. And because of ridicule and the hatred, Leah is mocking Rachel. And so Rachel decides that she's going to take a maidservant and give her to Jacob so that he could have kids, and those kids would be Rachel's kids. But Leah thinks, oh, I cannot be outdone. So she also takes a maidservant and does the same thing. And Leah had 4 kids before Rachel had any. But by the time the maidservant of Rachel has kids, Leah had 4. Now she gives her maidservant, and the maidservant also has 2 kids. Now she has 6. Then eventually Rachel had Joseph, and finally Benjamin. So altogether there were 12. And they grew up together. Joseph, at 17, he goes to feed the flock with his brothers, the 4 sons of the maidservants. And as they were out there, he comes back home. He decides that he was going to tell the father of what happened when they were out feeding the flock. And it wasn't a good thing. It wasn't a good report that he brought. Now, I was asking the kids and the adults here if we have siblings. Now, I'm not going to solicit for an answer for this one. But I'm going to ask those who have siblings, have you ever thought that your parents love the other kids more than you? Someone said yes. And I think you can see here, in this story, it wasn't even something that was hidden. For the Bible says, Jacob loved Joseph more than the rest. And he did not even hide it. He went ahead and made a coat of many colors. So if we were going to ask who the favorite son was, there would be no trouble finding him out. Because he was right there in the open, declaring the father's love for him. And not only that, he also decided to make things worse. Now, a few weeks ago, our Prime Minister was in Davos, Switzerland, at the World Economic Forum. And he gave a very powerful speech. Well, remember I said our Prime Minister. He said something like this. I mean, within the context of whatever he was talking about. If you are not around the table, you are on the menu. If you are not around the table, you are on the menu. It pays to be sitting around the table where things are being discussed and decisions are going to be made. Now, for kids, you may be too young to sit around the table. But where decisions and matters are being discussed and you are mature enough, you need to be around the table. Because if you are not, you are going to be on the menu. Now, I don't mean literally they are going to slice you and eat you up. Okay? So, Joseph, he is sent, one time he's sent to take some food to his brothers. And they had taken the flock out, and so he goes out there, he's looking for them. So he's wandering around and he doesn't find them where he thinks they ought to be. And then he ran into this man who says, "Hey, young man, what are you doing here and what are you looking for?" And the young man says, "Oh, I'm looking for my brothers. Have you seen them?" And so the man says, "Oh, no, they've moved from here. They've gone to Dothan." And so he goes and he finds them there. Now, prior to this, Joseph had told his brothers and his parents that he was having these dreams, these funny dreams. And these dreams basically meant that at some point they were going to bow down to him. Now you can imagine, already the brothers knew that he was loved more than them. And they said they hated him. They didn't even have to hide it too. And now he comes with these dreams on top of that. So their hatred was even magnified. So when they see him coming, they said, "Oh, remember we said he had a beautiful coat." So they could see him from afar. And as he was coming, instead of being excited that he's bringing food, they see him, instead of saying, "Our brother is coming," they said, "Behold, the dreamer is coming." Now, it wasn't a term of endearment. It was a term of scorn. They were not happy. And so he approaches, and as he comes, the brothers sit around and they devise a plan. What shall we do with the dreamer? And so the plan was, well, he is not around the table. He is going to be on the menu. let us kill him. And when we have killed him, we will sprinkle some blood on his coat and will take it back to his father. They don't even refer to Jacob as their father. They say his father. But then Reuben, who was the eldest and the son of Leah, says, no, you know what? We don't have to kill him. We can just throw him into a pit. Well, he said this because, he couldn't say it aloud, but in his heart he was saying, well, if we throw him in there, I'll come back, and then I'll take him back to his father. Let us read Genesis 37, verse 25 to 27. Genesis 37, verse 25. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. Well, thank God for Reuben. These were blood brothers, family, and they were planning a horrible thing: to kill their own flesh and blood. And whilst they're doing this, they sit around to have dinner. The food that he had brought for them. Friends, we are family. But we may not be flesh and blood family. Do we sit around the table and have dinner whilst feasting on our brothers and sisters? The heart is so deceitful, who may know it? If we are family, do we have to have our own as part of our meal? Our theme for our roundtable discussions this time is based on Christian living. Please come and join these so that we can learn together. You see, when we say we are Christians, what does that mean? For family, this family here, you would think that they loved each other so much. But we can see that they were plotting to kill their own brother. when we come together as family, are we coming to show God's love to one another? Or are we coming to discuss how we can extinguish someone's fire? And Paul warns us. He says, amongst you are going to be wolves in sheep's clothing. He is not talking about people out there. He is talking about people inside of the church. I'm not saying you are wolves in sheep's clothing. But I'm saying the devil is busy inside the church. What is our obligation to each other? Do we seek to profit at the misery of our brothers and our sisters? And these brothers are having a meal, having thrown their brother into the pit. They are enjoying the meal. And they are saying, you know what? Maybe we could actually profit from this guy. If we kill him, he's gone. There is nothing that we are going to gain from this. How about we sell him? Church, do you profit at the misery of your brothers and your sisters? When we come together, let us come together as family to encourage each other. You see, there's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with ambition. It's only wrong when it's selfish. But we can come together. They didn't like his dreams. For his dreams spoke of ambition. That one day he was going to rise up to a position where they were all going to bow down to him. And they did not like him for that. Church, we are all gifted differently. And God has done that to edify his church. Let us come together. Support each other to edify God's church. Let us not come to compete, to see who is better than the other, who can do this better than that. I love it when I see our young people. I never knew Tyler could sing. This is the second time I've heard him sing. There you go. We should be filled with joy when we see our young people thrive. Let us not put them down. Let us encourage them. You see, some may be fearful. It's not easy to stand before people. It doesn't matter how many times you have done it. There is always this jitteriness or some butterflies, because in as much as you think you're good, this afternoon, I would like to think that it wasn't by his design that idea of saving his brother came from him. I think God spoke to him so that he could save his brother. Isaiah says that, God has always had a remnant